the man, the myth, the legend. We got Sullivan Tipton on this week's show. And guys, I am so pumped to have him here and for you to learn from him. We have already heard, for those who are class and session members, we already heard some amazing things. We got Sullivan's disc golf background, how he found the game. He gave us some incredible tips on putting in the wind. And, I've known Sully for a couple years now, and it's been a pleasure learning from him from a distance, just being able to watch him throw. Picking his brain over the course of the year and just asking him about different things. And it's been a lot of fun watching him tour and shred disc golf courses around the country. Sullivan, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
Doing great, man. Good to be here with you. Like you said, yeah, I've known you for a couple of years. We actually went to the same college, which is kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
just didn't
Um,
overlap. Just didn't
I
overlap.
know, I know, but yeah, super excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, we are glad to have you, man. Like I said, everybody, there's a bonus section. So if you want to go ahead and be a subscriber or a YouTube member, you can check that out and you get access to all of that. This will be the third bonus section that you can check up on. But for now, let's go ahead and let's get into the outline for the show. So like we do when we have a guest on the show, we're going to go over some Discord questions. If you want to ask a pro a question, join my Discord server, link in the bio. We're going to talk about, after that, a couple questions. We're going to talk about the forehand, and I'm really excited for this. We have not talked about the forehand much on this podcast at all, so I'm super excited to have Sullivan break that down for us. After that, we're going to talk about Sullivan's favorite disc, and I'm super excited to discuss this. It's the Discraft Force. And then we're going to recap the USDGC. Sully's had a few weeks to kind of mull over it, that experience that he had there. I'm really excited to hear what he has to say. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, Sullivan. So the first question that I want to ask you, and this actually comes from Ryan over on my Discord server, Ryan KBDG. He has a couple questions. The first one is, and this is where we'll start, which non-major would you want to win the most?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm gonna try not to be biased, but it might sound a little biased. I think Ledgestone would be the coolest
Yeah,
non-major to win. Uh, yeah, I'm sponsored by them, so it might sound like okay to win my
yeah.
sponsored event, but it just Ledgestone just feels like one of those tournaments that's not a major, but
Mm-hmm.
almost feels like it's the same kind of caliber as it. It's got a lot of like big stages around it. It just seems like it's a major type vibe when you're out there
Right.
playing with the fans. Just like the week leading up to it, the things they have going on there at the
Yeah.
tournament. It just seems so big. It almost feels like a major when you win it. And the thing that's going on, it's a great tournament. It's phenomenal courses. That would probably be the go-to, favorite one to win, non-major.
Yeah, that is awesome. And I totally, messed up there, guys. I didn't even tell you. I was so excited to have Sullivan talk to you guys. I didn't even mention sponsored by Discraft, sponsored by Ledgestone. How about real quick, man? You just run us through what are some of your sponsors so that you can give them a shout out.
Yeah, obviously, Discraft, Ledgestone, sponsored by Eagles Wings, Project Athlete out of Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Parker Davis, he runs that. Keeps me healthy and fit over the off season.
That's awesome.
I got Ace Bags. They keep my hands dry. They're based out of here in Brooksville, Florida. I tried out a bunch of different bags, and these are the best bags I've felt, and that's why I wanted them. But they're pretty awesome. And then Cody Larson, he gives me a bunch of discs, so I always tell him that he's a sponsor, and he loves it.
That is
So
awesome.
I got
Very
always
cool.
shout him out.
Very cool. Well, I love that. Yeah, Ledgestone, going back to that, is a super cool tournament. Uh just a lot of fun. And like you said, they put on such a big show for that. There's so much coming into that week. And, it's one of those where it may not be a major, but all the pros are showing up. They're going to be there.
Yeah,
So it's one of the few tournaments on tour, non-major, that it feels like the field is at its strongest. Like you may have a few pros here and there who aren't showing up, but for the most part, everybody's going to be there. So very, very cool. Speaking of competing against the pros, every pro has a strength in their game and some weaknesses, but from your perspective, what is a part of the game that an aspiring pro should be working on the most? Given
yeah.
that everybody's going to have some different strengths and weaknesses, what is something that you think every pro needs to have or that somebody should be working on if they want to be a pro?
Yeah. I mean, I think the easiest answer there that anyone could say is putting.
Hmm.
Because obviously, if you're making all your putts, like you're gonna be a really, really good player. I think so. I think that's an easy one to say. I'm sure most people are gonna say that too. I would say another one that it's probably not thought as much, but I think is a huge deal is your approach game. Because if you can limit your approach game from, 30, 25 feet, some of
Yeah.
those like tester putts where it's like maybe 50% for you.
Right.
If you can limit those to, okay, 10 feet, 5 feet to
Hmm.
some of those even give me shots, I mean, that's a huge difference. Putting less stress on you in a
Yeah.
tournament, okay, having a 10 footer is so much easier, so much less stressful
Hmm.
than having a 25 footer.
Right.
And it is, that little, 10, 15 feet is such a big difference, especially when you're trying to compete at a super high level. Um, just knowing that in just a tiny bit, it can make
Yeah.
all the difference in the world. And I
For
think that's a
sure.
part that maybe somewhat overlooked sometimes. I think is a huge part to
No,
the
I love
approach.
that. I was just in Kansas City a few weeks ago for a friend's wedding, and I got to play, and I did a couple rounds there. But the first round I played was the super short round, and it was like a lot of the holes were 200, 220 feet and in. And I've always liked my approach game. I've always felt it's been one of the strongest. But when you're throwing off the tee at that distance, you really
Mhm.
start over and over and over. You really start to feel like, ooh, I need to work on this. So I know coming into the off season for the professional, tier of players, it's the off season. Disc golf never really stops, but for the professionals, that off season, I like to think of it that way too. That's something that I'm planning on working on. So I'm really glad to hear you say that. Now, speaking of disc golf skills, I'm really excited to talk to you about this next part. At the USDGC, you threw a lot of forehands, and we'll get into the details about that a little bit later. But for the actual skill itself, I want you to kind of break it down. You have a powerful forehand. We've played some rounds together, and I've seen you just casually rip a 450-foot, 500-foot forehand. So it's definitely one of your skills. You mentioned in the class in session portion about wrestling and a baseball background. So I'm wondering if that plays into this a little bit. But first and foremost, why do you like throwing the forehand? And then what are some key components that everybody needs to have in their forehand?
Yeah, I definitely tend to go to a forehand a lot of times. My first whole year of disc golf was all forehand. Did not have a
Mm,
backhand at all. And I was forehand putters, mid ranges. Forehand a lot of flippy stuff. And like I like to get that touch and just kind
yeah.
of like hold it over. And so I'm super comfortable with the forehand. That's pretty much what I grew up throwing most of the
Mm,
time. Um, but yeah, especially at USDGC, I saw a lot of forehands. To me, it was a lot of like position disc golf, and I can place a forehand like, more controlled than a
mm,
backhand. So, when you see me at some other courses that aren't necessarily positional golf, you'll see a lot more backhands out of me,
mm.
but a lot of position playing is forehands because I know I can just pick and choose where I wanna put it most
Right.
of the time. But yeah, you'll see a lot of forehands, people have different forehands, big reach back, I don't
Right.
really reach back too far,
Right.
but they all have, like, one thing in common. They may look different, but, the same things they have in common, if they're a pretty good forehand, is the timing, and that's, like, with your elbow staying in close to your side, and when you're getting ready to rotate your hips, it's the same way. Your elbow and your forearm are just flowing through at the exact same time. Like, everything is just so in tune at the exact same time. It comes through your core, hips, and arm at the exact same time. It's a bunch of things combined at the exact same time where you get a bunch
Mhm.
of power from. And so you find yourself throwing it a little bit right, left. It's either because you're
Right.
opening your hips up a little bit early, or your arm is a little bit behind your hips, or your arm's in
Mhm.
front.
Oh, so
Um,
you want your elbow and your arm, like your forearm coming with your
mhm.
hips?
Yeah, I like it at the exact same time. Everything is coming through at one time. It's like one big like pop
Right.
and motion. Yeah, if it's like a little bit behind, it's almost like a lag. And I don't really like that for forehands. I like it coming together at one
Mhm.
time, one unique, one same time, one big push. And that's where I get a lot of power from because you don't see me reach back and do this big
Right.
whole wind up. I'm really just right here. Like I'm not going too
Yeah.
far past. It's
Yeah,
all
no,
coming in at the
I
same time.
and that's one of the reasons why I love your forehand because I've always kept my forehand form super simple. And I think I have a little bit more of a reach back than you, but it's one of those things where like I haven't been throwing the forehand as much. And when I go back to it, I think reaching so far back has been messing with my shoulder a little bit. And so, as much as this is helping everybody else, I'm excited to be asking you these questions because I'm like,
Yeah.
I was forehand dominant for so long and never had like shoulder pain, but it's been happening again recently. It's just hearing about that timing with the hips and the forearm coming. That is super helpful to know. So, with that being said, we've kind of touched on that's how you're going to generate your power. How should somebody aim their forehand?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times it just depends on like what kind of hole it is, where you're throwing, like if it's an Annie, like or
Hmm.
a big hyzer. Because I pick different aiming spots, like just in my lane of view, I pick different
Hmm.
aiming spots for what I'm throwing. And so if it's like open field and my target is just way out there, let's just say like 350 feet, I'm just going big hyzer. I'm aiming really far left. I'm gonna throw a
Hmm.
stable disc most likely, and just hanging out way left and high, and just like gradually get there. So I like to let the disc do most of the work,
Hmm.
and I'll throw out to the general area. Like I don't know, usually have a spot picked out where I want to hit,
Right.
and that's what I try to hit. And
Will
yeah, I think
you
it's
change the way like your body is facing? Like, will you change the angle of your walk up, or do you just swing your arm across your body for a hyzer?
Yeah, you'll see me change my walk up a little bit. Especially like if I'm trying to throw out way left, you'll see me
Right.
start from the right of the tee pad and
Hmm.
walk diagonally to the left to get this left
Right.
bigger one. And same thing if I'm throwing Annie to the right, I'll start from the
Hmm.
left and go to the right to throw it this way. If it's like a wood shot dead straight, I'll probably
Right.
have the exact same wind up. I mean, just going straight at it if it's a hyzer and a hyzer.
Right.
But yeah, you'll see me change the way I walk up to it
Very
for
cool.
sure.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, before we move on to the disc review, is there anything that you want to touch on about the forehand? Any final tip on how people can improve their forehand?
Um, yeah, I would say a big way to improve your forehand is to either grab a putter or grab like a sole, and try to control either a putter or a sole on forehand. Work on
Hmm.
that. Work on like your touch and your ankle control, because if you can forehand a putter pretty well or a sole
Hmm.
pretty well, you'll see me bust out a sole
Yeah.
sometimes in some wooded courses. If you can get comfortable with those kind of discs on a forehand, it's gonna be a lot easier to transition to a more stable disc because it's gonna be so
Right.
consistent. So if you can be consistent with like a flippy putter, flippy mid range, you'll find it a lot easier forehand your more stable stuff.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, there you have it, guys. I think you got everything you need to improve your forehand. Now we just need to get out there, practice, use a pitching net, go out to the field, and let's work on these forehands. Now, let's go ahead and let's get into our disc review, which is also sponsored by OTB Discs. That's a different sponsor we got here. OTB, I've been with them for 3 years now. It's been awesome. They have all the discs in stock that you could want, including the disc that we are reviewing today. Now, they don't got Sullivan Tipton forces, but they do have all the other kinds of forces that you can have out there and bunches of, and all the different kinds of plastic that Discraft comes out with. But yeah, so let's get into it. So the Discraft Force Sullivan is a 12 speed, 5 glide, 0 turn, and 3 fade disc. Um, Distance driver, overstable, and that's pretty a wide rim driver. What are your thoughts on it? We saw you throw it a lot at USDGC. You've thrown them for years. What are kind of your thoughts on it? And when are Sully forces coming back?
Yeah, yeah, Discraft Force has been my go-to just as a driver for a long time now. They're just super consistent, and just the feel, I can really get them to go a long way. But yeah, the two that you'll see me throwing a lot are these like Z Glow or Z UV Forces. These runs right here are like super beefy. So these are some windy ones, big turnover flexes. This is actually my run from D Glow this year. You
Nice.
can pick these up on Ledgestone if y'all want. But then the one that y'all see me throw just pretty much every shot with at USDGC were these runs right here. These are
Mm,
actually some ESP super pop top lightweight forces. So that's probably what a lot of people didn't know. These are actually lightweight forces around 166 to 68. And these are like my bomber forces right
mm.
here. Um, with them just being a little bit lighter weight, they're not as stable. They're stable for being lightweight, but you'll see me do a lot of hydro flips,
Yeah.
especially on like hole 12 at USDGC or even hole like 15. You'll see me throw some big hydro flips with these, and I get a lot of turn, a ton of glide out of these, and these have been like a go-to for sure for me. And yeah, I'm super glad I had these in my bag that
Yeah.
week because they helped me out a ton. But yeah, ESP lightweight. Don't be afraid to go lightweight just because you don't want to say you throw lightweight stuff because all the pros throw the max weight stuff.
So true.
That is very false. Most of my disc or most of my distance drivers are actually lightweight ones
Yeah.
because I get the most
Yep.
pot most distance from them. So don't be afraid
That's
to go down
awesome.
just whatever you can throw better. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what weight they are.
So how many forces do you bag for like a normal round?
Yeah, for a normal round, forces are the only distance driver I throw in my bag. So I'm not so I have probably a little bit more than most people. So I keep about 6
Mm,
forces in my bag,
wow.
um, possibly even 7 depending on the course. A couple of them are almost identical.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just feel for me.
Mm-hmm.
They might do the exact same. Some of them just feel just a little bit different for me. And so I feel more confident on just certain holes with a couple of them. But yeah, I have like 3 of these lightweight forces in my bag. This one's my most beaten one, and so then I have like a middle beaten one and a suit and like a brand new one usually.
Right.
And same disc, but just different stability sometimes. And so I usually keep about 6 or 7 in there just because that's the only distance driver I throw. So I don't have to
Very
like
cool.
battle with like a nuke or a venom. I don't have to.
Yeah.
I'll just go to a different kind of
And the
force.
hand feel is going to be all the same, just different
Yeah.
stability. So I like that. I'm a big proponent of layering. Now you mentioned something pretty interesting about these lighter weight forces in the 166 to 168. And this was something, this is going to be part of a quasi USDGC recap here as we're coming up on time pretty soon. Like we've both said, you threw a lot of forehands. You like them for placement. You like them for the control. You can obviously get a lot of distance with them. And I don't know if this was maybe based on this conversation now an error on Jomez's part, but one thing I was wondering is that whenever you would tee off, Jomez now does like with the disc, this year and last year, I think they've been showing the disc that's being thrown off the tee. And
Yeah.
for you, they said a lot of Z light. So
Mm.
I'm thinking here, is this like 155-gram force that he's throwing? Is maybe that a mislabeling? But I'm just kind of wondering, why'd you opt for that light force if that is, what you were throwing?
Yeah, no, that's a mislabel. I don't have an AZ Light in my bag.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
Maybe
no,
it was just a lightweight ESP then that you were
yeah,
throwing.
no, yeah,
Okay.
they're lightweight. They're lightweight. They're not Z Light. Z Light is like 150 stuff, and
Yeah.
no, I don't
Okay.
throw those. Yeah, no, these are still stable. They're just a little bit lighter. But just because it's a lightweight disc doesn't mean it's gonna be just crazy flippy. You'll still get some if you buy this run, you can still have some really stable lightweight forces. But I just when I have a lightweight force in my hand, I can just really torque on it really hard. And if they're stable, they will flip and have a really good finish. To me, it just seems a little bit more controllable for me sometimes, especially for distance shots. It's
Right.
more distance with less effort for me
I
for the
like
lightweight
that.
forces.
I like that. As I've been slowly dabbling into bagging some distance drivers in my bag and not even like 12 speeds, but looking more like the 11 slot speeds, like looking for something that's lighter and still having, being able to control that kind of weight and distance. So I love
Yeah,
that. I love to hear that even pros who can throw really far are still doing the same thing because it just maximizes it. It
yeah,
also takes it easy on your body a little bit instead of hucking a 175-gram,
yeah.
Halo Destroyer. Very cool. So, guys, if you want to pick up a Sullivan Force, you got to wait for some more to come out. I think unless they're still in stock on Ledgestone.
Yeah, you can pick up these UV forces right here.
Sweet,
These are still on Ledgestone. The first ones are out, but these from D-Glow are still available if you want some.
sweet.
These are gonna be your more stable forces. Be really good in the wind. These are really
Yeah,
beefy. So if you want a beefy force, these are great. And I love the UV glow.
yeah,
This is my
that's
favorite
really
kind
cool.
of. It's my favorite kind of plastic right here.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
if
you
you
can still
guys
pick
want
those
to,
up.
yeah, so if you guys want to pick one of those up, head to ledgestone.com. And if they're sold out by the time you get there, or you're wanting something not as beefy, you can head to OTB and pick up a Discraft Force as well. But now I want to touch a little bit more on USDGC for you, man. I got to say, it was awesome watching you for 3 rounds on lead card coverage. Like you talked about in the interview, first time having that experience, especially at a major. Um, One thing I got to say that was just really cool to see is that even though the final round didn't quite go the way that you were hoping it would go, you had a positive attitude no matter what your score was, man. Whether you were taking a bogey, double bogey, or getting a birdie, after you played the hole, it's like I couldn't tell, oh, he just birdied or he just bogeyed. You had such a positive attitude that was just consistent the whole time. So I want you to know, like, people are watching, people are looking and seeing that, and it's super encouraging. But go ahead and, take the floor here. We got a couple, about 2 minutes left. Using Zoom for free kind of messes us up a little bit. But go ahead and just walk us through like what that experience was for you at USDGC.
Yeah, no, it was a great experience. I mean, lead card, final day, 3 rounds, I had nothing to complain about.
Yeah,
It was a little windy that day, made it a little rough, but, I surprisingly, had a bunch of fans I never met before out there
that's
that were they
awesome.
kept screaming my name the whole time, like, I'd have a little tap in one, and they're just like, "Yeah, go Sully." I'm like, "Alright," it kept me smiling the whole time, so it was super fun. Yeah, I was just super blessed just to be out there just
Yeah,
playing. It was a great opportunity. I didn't want to complain about a single thing where I was at.
yeah,
I told myself, okay, I want to really place top 20 this week, and
right.
I was doing that, so I wasn't gonna complain about anything. But it was just a great week. I was just super blessed just to be out there playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, first time lead card Jomez. I was just stoked about that.
You
Just
aced as well.
yeah,
It's not spoilers now. It's been all over the internet, guys. You
yeah.
aced as well at USDGC while on lead card. I mean, you were having an awesome week, man.
Yeah, no, it was great, and then finishing the last round with, like, getting the 3 of the last 4 with
Mhm.
almost acing hole 17 in the last round,
Yep.
it
Yep.
was a great experience, can't complain about anything, I loved it the whole time.
That is awesome. Well, if you didn't watch it live, Jomez does have post-produced coverage on their channel. You can catch all of it. But if you want to see Sullivan, check out rounds 2, 3, and 4, the final round. You can see him on there. And here, Big Sexy Barry, I think is what they're called now with all 3 of them. You can hear them talk about Sully. A lot of fun. Dude, it was so much fun having you on the show. I know we had some scheduling conflict over the last few weeks. I'm just glad we were able to do this. I really enjoyed having you here. So, guys, if you want to go and support Sully, head to Discraft, head to Ledgestone, head to his other sponsors. I'll put some links in the description so that you can support him and be on the lookout for this upcoming season. All right. So that's all I have for you today, everybody. Here at Teach Play Disc Golf, we do a couple of things. First, go out this week and teach someone how to play, encourage them, take someone new to the course. Make sure you go out and play some disc golf yourself and have fun this week, everybody.